what piece of marketing advice would you give to somebody who's new in this industry or maybe even thinking about getting into it?
Apart from the obvious, like making yourself visible to customers, whether it be socials, in front of people's eyes on the streets. Starting off, leverage your community. That is your free community groups on Facebook, your close circles. You will be surprised how quickly you can reach 50 customers by not being shy about talking about your business to your community.
Everybody, welcome back inside of Trash Chatter. I'm your host, Victoria Conaway, and today I am thrilled to be joined by Bradley Robinson from BR Digital Marketing. Bradley, how are you?
Good. Yeah, doing well. Glad to finally be here after watching the podcast for so long.
All the way from Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for making some time for us.
No problem.
We're going to get into, of course, the way Bradley has helped countless entrepreneurs in the bin cleaning space in terms of digital marketing and get some of his best tips and advice for growing your business. But first, I want to start with how you even got into digital marketing. I know you started with ads for personal trainers and gyms. What's your origin story in terms of getting into the marketing space?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I didn't study marketing in college. I mean, I did a master's in sports science, so completely different field. But after college, I was traveling around and I started meeting a lot of people who were working online. And that got me curious, and that curiosity actually turned into me getting those targeted Facebook ads about solutions, like people that can sell you courses and whatnot to fulfill that desire that I had. And I actually jumped into one of those, which ended up being an advertising course specifically for local service-based businesses. And then starting off with personal trainers and gyms, that my background in sports science, it kind of just made sense. I knew what their pains and desires were, so I thought that would be the easiest way to get started.
Awesome. So you start in the gym aspect, science background, and then you end up with trash bin cleaning. How'd you hear about it? What was your initial take, and what led you to be where you are today?
Yeah, trash bin cleaning, interesting one. I was working with a personal trainer in South Africa, and one of his friends reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you help me with my business?" And it was a bin cleaning business. And that was the first time I had heard of bin cleaning. And to be honest, I was a bit like some of the comments that you see on a lot of the socials, like where I don't see the point of this yet. I was more that person. And I guess that just shows that not everyone's going to be your ideal customer from day one, because I ended up being a big advocate for it. I know my wife straight away, when I told her about it, she's like, "This is a no-brainer. I would do this service in a heartbeat."
That's so funny so many people have different reactions to it. Now, when you try and enter a space that, like you said, it's not a very common thing. I feel like no matter where you are in the world, it's still such a new concept. What are the challenges of trying to advertise and market for something where you can't really get data points, right? Like gym ads, maybe you're able to look at different companies and their success. This is such a new subject. Is it harder? Is it easier because there's less competition? What does that, look like in terms of what your company does?
Yeah, I think when you go into industries that are already established, there's almost a blueprint of advertising, and you can do research and figure out just YouTube and everything and figure out a way to do it. But starting so early in the industry myself, it was kind of like you had to invent that blueprint. I was the one putting those ideas forward. So, but that's marketing. That is testing. Essentially, it all comes down to testing. So it's about finding what works in different industries and trying to nail that down, really.
And we're out in South African markets at first, and then all of a sudden you're getting into the US space. What are those differences like? What challenges did that lead to you? Where I didn't know for the gym ads, I'm assuming it was more locally, right? Like you weren't doing stuff for US based companies.
Yeah, exactly. I focused on everywhere. I did gym ads and personal training ads in a couple different countries, but it's very different to the US, and that kind of speaks to the difference in the industry as well, the bin cleaning industry, South Africa versus the US market. Very, very different. I've actually run bin cleaning ads, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, UK, and even Sweden, which surprised me. Yeah.
Really?
And, each country has its quirks. The biggest difference I noticed in the US is like early on the professionalism of the industry as a whole. I don't want to say, I'm not trying to say that people in these other countries aren't professional. I'm saying the industry. Um, you know, the, Everyone I spoke to and the operators, the owners in the business, like they understood the concepts of lifetime customer value. They understood the importance of investing in marketing. Whereas some of these other countries, it was a bit harder to convince them, okay, you need to spend money to make money. And I felt like everyone in the US kind of had that understanding already. Um, and a big part of it was like in the industry as a whole and how it's been set up in America. I think is also is like the rigs that are being built from guys like you, like in sparkling bins. Like the rigs are insane, and there's one person can sanitize dozens of bins, with a professional setup. Whereas in South Africa, it's completely opposite. Labor is cheap, and you will see 3 or 4 guys crammed in a truck with sprayers and a lot of elbow grease. And both models work, and it works, and different things work. But the US approach really, it like elevated the industry into something scalable. So that's where I got excited and kind of stuck with the US in a bit.
When you had your first moment of realizing, okay, maybe I can enter this space in the US, but it's so new there, were you excited by that challenge? Were you intimidated? How did you approach it knowing, okay, maybe it's new in some other places, but really in the US, it's, maybe 15 years, if that?
Yeah, I mean, it was exciting, a little nerve wracking. You know, like I said before, there was no blueprint as to how you're going to market. So I kind of had to figure that out through trial and error. And every campaign was kind of like breaking new ground. The biggest challenge for me and the fear, I guess, was the US being a new market or a new industry. How is it going to go? What's the trajectory of the industry? Because what I've seen and experienced in the UK, which the service and the industries existed for a long time. I don't even know how long. I've seen some guys that have been going for 30 years. Um, there was a bit of a race to the bottom, in terms of pricing and undervaluing each other through just lowering their prices. So getting started in the US when let's say it started at a high bar, I was a bit worried. Okay, is it going to go the same way as the UK? I did some ads there. It was really hard to squeeze the margins out of such small margins, really. Yeah, the returns are so much smaller. So yeah, that was the big difficulty of being like, okay, I'm going to focus on the US, focus on the industry in the US, which I don't know the trajectory of where it was going to go.
Was there ever a moment while you were looking at the trajectory to say, okay, is it even worth it to be in the US? Or were you always, committed to like, let's ride this out and see how it goes?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've kind of been open to the whole world. I'm in the bin cleaning industry. Still, I actually still work with that first client that I got in South Africa. I still work with them to this day. But I think the fear more was focusing on the bin cleaning industry as a whole, not necessarily the US. So there's like, is this going to take off as an industry? You put in a ton of effort into campaigns and maybe not seeing immediate results. And it's tempting to go into the more mainstream industries like fitness, what I was used to. And people already understood the service. It's bin cleaning being especially new in the US. It's like, okay, now you're going to convince a bunch of people that have never heard of the service before to get started. But what really convinced me to stay was the first success stories. There's operators that went from a few cleans in a week to fully booked routes just because the ads, we got them clicking, and it was often their biggest ways of growth was through the Facebook ads, or I say Facebook meta ads. And that's kind of where it hit me as well. Like bins aren't going anywhere, and trash isn't going anywhere. so neither am I. And as long as people are making garbage, the industry is going to be worth growing, I guess.
Absolutely. That's a really good breakdown for it. There's a need for it. It's just getting the concept out there. Once again, we're here inside of Trash Chatter, Victoria Conaway alongside Bradley Robinson, discussing his origin story to leading him to being one of the top digital marketers for bin cleaning in the US. Bradley, I know you talked with our crew beforehand about a moment that things kind of maybe clicked for you and maybe appear to this day. I'm going to read the name of it, and maybe you can share the story with our listeners and viewers. If you could share the story of the Nigerian Prince, which maybe led you to be where you are today.
That's a bit of a funny one. Yeah, so like it was quite a while ago. I think it was about 5 years ago. A client, probably 5 years ago, client was giving me a glowing review on your guys' Facebook page, the group page. And he had a good sense of humor. He was jokingly called me the Nigerian Prince. He was telling people, go give this Nigerian Prince your money, just because I live in Africa. And
Yes.
and fast forward a couple of years, I came across a comment section that people were talking about marketing, and someone was actually mentioned they were nervous about hiring me because they thought I was Nigerian, and not that you can question those, but they thought, can I be trusted? Like, is this Nigerian Prince trustworthy? I must admit that cracked me up because it was. I never thought it stuck, and I thought everyone kind of understood that it was a joke. And then, still to this day, some of my current clients will joke about sending money to Africa.
That's amazing. It's funny the things that stick, and I feel like with bin cleaning, it's a perfect segue because bin cleaning is such a niche business and it is kind of fun. So I like that you have that nickname and that people are referring you. With your experience, and you've done this for quite a few years now within this industry, what would you say is the biggest misconception people have in terms of marketing for their bin cleaning businesses?
This is where I could probably speak for a long, long time.
The floor is
Because
yours. The floor is
no,
yours.
don't
Go
worry,
for
I
it.
won't. Because it kind of goes into the common mistakes. So it's not just misconceptions; it's also just the mistakes that I see. But I think the biggest misconceptions for new startups, especially, is thinking, okay, I've got a cool service, and customers are going to come to that. It makes sense. It's cool. People are going to come. But I think what people really need to understand is no matter how many of your friends and family have said, "Oh, that's such a good idea," this is still a new industry and it's relatively new in the US. Like your ideal customers might be middle aged and have never heard of bin cleaning in their lives, let alone your brand. So like the service as a whole, not just your brand. And I say middle aged because well, how are you going to convince someone who's gone half their life to now change? Um, uh, so to take them from seeing your like one time, whether it's a Facebook ad or seeing the truck or a post on social media or anything like that, to making them a paying customer, it's seldom going to happen in such a short space of time. And it's actually more of a mindset thing, as mindset shift. I see like a lot of new businesses have that misconception just because they go, okay, I'm now opening a fantastic business. I expect everyone to walk in and want to want to be there for it. Yeah, and that's when it comes to the marketing, that's kind of where the consistency builds familiarity. Um, like in marketing, there's a principle, the rule of seven, which is it refers to potential customers needing an average of 7 touch points or interactions with the brand to become a customer. And that's just it's a general rule. It's not like bin cleaning focused, but it just shows that consistency matters more than one. I can say an ad, but it's not even just an ad. It might be your truck being there, and you think, oh, great, everyone's going to sign up. It's a great touch point, but it's not going to happen immediately.
Definitely. I mean, I think consistency, when we talk to clients all the time, one, it's a new service. And like you said, with how many different advertisements people get, how many distractions we have in today's world, it's very easy to forget about it. Has there been, without giving too much away, a recipe that you found in certain markets or demographics within the US? Or do you think there's still things that you're learning and developing to figure out, okay, these ads in the South or the Northeast might work better?
Locations are so different. It's quite difficult to pinpoint. Like, obviously, we have a recipe. What we like to start with a framework of, okay, this is working for majority of our clients. Let's start with this and learn from that. but it's you'd be quite surprised how different it can vary from place to place. But that's the advantage of being in the industry for so long and focusing specifically on bin cleaning is that you can you can build that framework and have a good starting point. So I feel like I can start a step ahead of where another marketer starts now if he's just getting into the industry. And the way things are moving, the way the Facebook algorithm is changing, it's actually less like it used to be all about we need to design a customer avatar, as in who we want to target and who is your perfect customer, and target them. So now we don't necessarily target them with literally, um, let's call it demographic targeting and interest targeting. Now we keep it broad and we target them with copy, with ad copy and designing an ad that appeals to them because Facebook algorithm has changed in a bit where it's now interest based. It's trying to target people that might be it has got so much data on people, and it itself is going to target people. So you don't necessarily need to say you don't need to do a whole bunch of market research and say this is my ideal customer anymore. And we used to do it's quite funny actually, like we used to do a lot of that in the beginning. And for example, everyone is talking about your ideal customer, say a female between the ages of 35 to 45. And then you look back at all the, I mean, we've spent now millions of ads on bin cleaning, and you look at all the statistics, and you go, okay, yes, the ads are being distributed to more females, but males are taking action at a cheaper cost. So, do you want to exclude them from your ads because they're actually technically performing better? Um, so yeah, it's quite hard to say, hey, this is who you want to target because, and that's the awesome thing about this industry is everyone has a bin. Um, in that's from Australia to South Africa to America. There's a lot of places where you actually have to have a bin. So, and everyone's had that experience of having to pick up or put trash in a bin that you didn't want to open the lid because it's too gross. So everyone's a potential customer, I guess.
I like that you finish with that note because every time a prospect calls, they're like, who do I reach out to? I'm like, anyone with a bin, a school, a homeowner, a hospital, anyone that's got a garbage bin could be a potential customer, which is definitely, I think, the exciting part of the industry. Is there's millions literally out there. Bradley, I wanted to ask you, as you've been doing this for several years, is there a particular success story that jumps out at you that you thought, okay, maybe I could do this in this industry, in this country, and then all of a sudden you saw some great returns for a client or growth that it even maybe allowed the client to say, like, I could keep staying in this business?
So it's hard to actually give a good answer to that in terms of numbers because, and I said before, it varies from location to location. So when I'm talking to a lot of business owners, they first say like, what can I expect? And, what are the numbers? And I can tell you about one guy who is getting signups for as little as $5, like $5 ad spend and getting new customers. And in a fantastic area, that's great. But it's not always super realistic. I like to kind of not tell the best stories because the best stories are often they hold you to that sort of
High expectation.
exactly. um, but I mean, the most successful of my clients are the ones that embrace the consistency, like the ups and the downs, and it's extreme. One thing to say is like it's extremely different to other industries where there is a level of demand and we're trying to capture a piece of a pie. So then you can work out a formula and say there is a certain level of demand, like say plumbers, and we can spend X to capture a certain piece of that pie. With this service, we're actually trying to drive the demand in the first place. So it's very different in that sense. But to give an example, and I saw you had your first repeat podcast guest of Brian of Mr. Clean Bins. Yeah, so I mean he's an example. We've been working together for 6 years now. He's got 3 locations, thousands of customers, and I'm not even sure how many trucks anymore.
Yeah, me neither. I can't keep up.
Yeah. And I mean, I try to look actually before this call. I was like, we try to look back on the Facebook stats. It won't even let me go back that far. Um, but I can distinctly remember when my first call with him before we started, he was working with a young guy trying to do his Facebook ads, and he had 44 customers. It's something that's always just stuck to me, even though it was so long ago, because I don't know the number 44. Um, and we exceeded those amount of signups in the first month. So, and that was when he was obviously very small, and now he's not that anymore. Um, but yeah, go back to the consistency. Give credit to someone like Brian. He understands the ups and the downs, and he's like constantly providing me with feedback on his business so we can get over hurdles together. So the true success stories come from owners that are staying consistent to that.
No, definitely. And I know Brian's always very transparent. Like even with us, he'll say we had a great year, we had a down year, and that's a part of a small business. And I think another aspect which you touched on earlier is you have to spend money to make money in any business, but let alone something like this. So we always try to tell people when they get into it, like, make sure you have that marketing budget put aside if you want this, to grow at a rate that you're happy with. And there's one last question I want to ask you, Bradley, before we let you go, and appreciate you taking the time today and all of the insight you've shared. And it would be, what piece of marketing advice would you give to somebody who's new in this industry or maybe even thinking about getting into it?
Yeah, I mean, apart from the obvious, like making yourself visible to customers, whether it be socials, in front of people's eyes on the streets. I think starting off, leverage your community. That is your free community groups on Facebook, your close circles. You will be surprised how quickly you can reach 50 customers by not being shy about talking about your business to your community. I found so many people that I have 2 customers. I'm like, what about your friends? Like, what about your neighbors? Just don't be shy to go talk to them. And don't overthink things. Your website can change, your videos can change. People aren't looking to support big corporations. They want to support small businesses. So being visibly local, you can make that take that to your advantage. When I say that, I mean you don't need it professionally done. So don't use that as an excuse not to just get started. And then when you actually start doing paid ads, we see from the stats, the less professional looking ads, like videos and images, typically perform better. And then I probably add in a bit of a controversial one, because I know there's a lot of opinions about potentially devaluing the service, but don't be scared to offer a promo, a discount. People run away from that. But I mean, a promo, it's not about saying that your service is cheap. It's about reducing the barrier for people to try something new. Again, it comes down to people having never heard of bin cleaning before, let alone your business. So a discount on the first clean gives them a reason to take that first step and just give it a try. But make sure you can back it up with a good service, and then the promos just become a fantastic growth tool, not a race to the bottom, like I mentioned earlier. You gotta think of it like a service like Netflix. The first month is free, but after that you're hooked, and you'll never give up again.
Everyone likes a deal. That's the truth of the matter. No matter what it is, everyone likes to feel like they're getting a deal, and that's a great point, because I always tell people the service speaks for itself. Once you get that first clean, it's very seldom do people actually cancel.
Yeah, it's hard to build value on a service that someone doesn't try. They need to try it to understand the value first.
Once again, here inside of Trash Chatter, so happy that Bradley Robinson was able to join us. He's helped countless entrepreneurs in the trash bin cleaning industry scale their business, add on new clients with marketing. And if you're interested in the services that he offers, make sure to reach out to him, Brad at br-digitalmarketing.com. We'll also link it in the description. Bradley, thank you for all of your contributions over the years. I'm glad we finally got to chat face to face. I always see you in the forums. And thank you so much for taking some time today.
Yeah, good to finally meet you, actually.
There we go. And hopefully we can have you back on. I appreciate it. Hope you take care, and make sure you guys like and subscribe our YouTube channel to make sure you get access to all of the Trash Chatter episodes. Follow our socials, and once again, Bradley's information will be linked in the description below. Thank you all for tuning in to Trash Chatter, and we'll see you again next time.